thou shalt not care about what friends, family, or yourself thinks. Results rule, all caps. Results rule, period. Welcome to King Moves. In chess, the king moves one step at a time, but that single move can change everything. Each week, we explore mindset shifts and simple actions that could lead to the next breakthrough in your business and life. I'm your co-host, Ethan King, from Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, and best-selling author of Wealth Beyond Money.
And I'm your co-host, Justin King, no relation to Ethan, from Cape Town, South Africa. Entrepreneur, speaker, and business growth strategist. Our journey crosses continents and cultures as we think out loud, challenge assumptions, and uncover the small moves that create big momentum. Welcome to King Moves. Let's start the conversation.
All right, so in the last episode, we started going through the 10 rules for direct response marketing from Dan Kennedy. And on the last episode, we covered rules 1 through 5. And today we're going to pick up and do rules 6 through 10. So we'll jump right in with rule number 6. Thou shalt not do one-step marketing. There shall be follow-up, all caps. You don't just pay for the customers you get when you invest in advertising and marketing. You pay a price for every website visit, for every call, for every walk-in. Doing nothing is flushing money down the toilet.
You're going to have to help me understand that one a little bit more.
So he's saying that you should always follow up. Like if you pay money to get somebody to do something one time and you don't follow up, then you're just flushing money down the toilet.
Yeah, that's fair. I tell you what he wasn't saying was every customer, every person that visits your website needs to follow up. No, it's somebody that adhered or responded to one of your calls to action. Right. And yeah, well, we know the statistics around sales, and obviously it varies industry by industry, but generally you're going to take 4, 5, 6, 8 opportunities of follow up before you might get that sale across the line. So if you're not following up once, geez, you're going to be dead in the water.
Yeah. The fortune is in the follow up. So
yeah.
And I think I would say the number has increased now. It used to be 7 or 8 times or 7 to 11 times where you have to repeat and somebody has to hear the message. But I think now we have so many things competing for our attention that you need at least 20 touch points before somebody takes action. So if you're going through all this effort to get somebody to take action and buy in and jump on your email list or, do something, then go ahead and design an automated email campaign or something where they're going to see your brand 20 times, retargeting, remarketing as many times as you can be in front of their face, the better.
What I would add to that though, because we don't want to spam people, and Gary Vaynerchuk wrote jab, 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 right hook. So jab, jab, jab is giving value away until the right hook is the opportunity to make the sale. There's somebody else, I've forgotten the name, he spoke about giving away knowledge nuggets so that you can sell knowledge meals. So in each of those touch points and each of those follow-ups, what value can you give? Because it's not just about harassing the individual until we're not running down a gazelle until it's so exhausted that it can't get away and we make the sale. It's how much value that can we give before hopefully they choose to buy.
Yeah, definitely. One tip that I've seen a lot of people do is give in an email in particular is give value in the email. Don't ask for anything in the email. Just teach somebody something, share knowledge, share information. But after the signature in the PS, there's always like, hey, if you're ever interested, here are 4 ways I can help you. Book me for coaching services or check out this online course or get this book. But it's just an aside and it's not the main point of the message. And I found that beneficial on the receiving end where, someone I follow is like, oh, okay, you know what? Let me reach out to this person and take the next step and book a call. All right. Rule number 7, there shall be strong copy, sales copy. There's an enormous, ever-growing, overwhelming competition for attention and interest that must be cut through or circumvented. The ordinary and normal are ignored. The cautious and calm messages go unnoticed. Copy, meaning the words in print or online media, can't just shout. It must grab the attention of the reader and convert it to interest.
When did Dan publish this?
I don't know. Russell Brunson bought his company, Magnetic Marketing, a couple of years ago. Yeah. So I think it's kind of timeless information that gets like recycled and reused and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, so I agree with the principle. If the reason I asked the question that I did is because just so interesting considering the proliferation and the explosion of AI right now, because
Mm,
copy has become a commodity,
yeah.
whereas there would have been those chosen few that were had a way with words and they could craft this beautiful narrative and really nail it. Where that's been commoditized to a large degree now. You have really good prompts, and you've trained your chat GPT really well, or whatever the other platform you're using. It's generating a lot of that copy for you now. The
Yeah.
the the skill is just making it sound human.
Well, and I think he's going a step further here is that it needs to grab interest. It needs to be
Yeah.
a little bit polarizing or have some shock value to it
Okay.
so that it stands out. And yeah, I definitely get that. And Dan Kennedy is definitely he's always been kind of a polarizing figure. And I mean, his logo is literally no BS. It's like a cow. And I mean, he's just that straight up, tell it like it is type of guy. And that stands out, especially in a world that is, can be very kind of washed over and sensitive. So to have some type of strong,
Mm,
polarizing message, maybe polarizing isn't always the right word, but there needs to be some sales copy that really grabs the attention of the reader so you stand out.
I like it. I will not argue that for a second.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Rule number 8, thou shalt not think, but my business is different, in quotes.
Ah,
Every every business needs to attract leads, convert those leads into paying customers, and retain those customers. That's the principal job of every business and why your business is not any different. What you say in your marketing might differ, but your business is not different.
ooh, it's not different unless you've clearly articulated what that difference is.
What do you mean?
But so I suppose we've all got to discover, unpack what our unique selling point is, or what is our unfair advantage, and that is your unique differentiator. So some businesses, your differentiator, what makes you different, may be easier for the customer to see. It may be front facing. Some businesses, what makes you different might be in back of house. It might be the way you do something. It might be some internal IP, and that's a lot more difficult for the customer to see. And I think you almost have to jump back to the narrative, the copy, what you're going to war with, what is polarizing, in order to get people to see that the differentiator of who you are.
I don't think he's talking about unique value proposition in this one. I think he's
Yeah.
saying that these rules of marketing apply to every business, no
Ah,
matter what
perfect.
business you're in. Every business, you got to attract customers, you got to get leads, you got to convert those leads, and you got to retain the customers, no matter what your industry is, no matter what your UVP is.
Mm,
Which I mean, I can agree with. And the thing is, when you go to like, and I think where this is coming from with him, if you coach people, you coach a lot of businesses. Has anyone ever come to you and be like, oh, no, that won't work for my business because my business is a little bit different and we do this? Have you ever had a client like that?
100%. Very often and I'll even think of myself using the excuse of we don't do that because we get referrals. But even with referrals, you've got to follow the process. A referral doesn't mean that it's case closed. It's person somebody's baited your hook for you. Maybe is a good way to look at a referral, but you still got to reel them in. You've still got to land the prospect. You've got to land the message, the narrative, the value that's going to be given to them, and then you've still got to follow the process. You've got to follow up with that individual. So I'm with you. We do all like to, you know, why we like to think that we're different. It's because we're scared of doing all the work.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Rule number 9, thou shalt not care about what friends, family, or yourself thinks. Results rule, all caps. Results rule, period. So he says, we are immune to opinion, criticism, or guesswork. If it sells, it's good. If it doesn't, it isn't. If you can't clearly track money in the bank from something, stop doing it. To be a committed marketer, you must be committed to results. No opinions count, not even yours. Only results will matter.
Can't argue. Can't argue because ultimately, if you go back to the very first point and the very first thought, the reason for doing it, the reason for starting the marketing journey is what? To
Right.
make money.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
to convert
exactly.
sales. And the metric that is going to be measuring that is dollars in the bank.
In my opinion, this is actually the toughest one out of this whole
Oh,
chart of the 10 rules. I think this is because we care so much about what other people think, and we don't want to be seen as selling all the time or like, or a pushy salesman or anything like that. But if you put out, let's say you put out multiple ad creatives, and there may be one, let's say where you feel maybe I'm gonna talk about myself. Maybe I feel like, oh, I don't like how I look in that one or what I said, or I sound too arrogant in that particular ad. But let's say that I look at the data and that ad converts into more dollars than my other ads where I'm being nice and I like how I come off to my friends and family. Well, he's saying you get now human nature, we kind of want to, that makes me feel uncomfortable. But if
yeah.
he's saying if the data shows that that ad is performing the best, then that's what you need to double down on.
Yeah, that's tricky. That and timeline. How long? Maybe that comes with mastering the art of marketing, but how long do you let something run for before switching it off, or before doubling down on it? And maybe that's different by business and by industry as well, because we want to measure dollars in the bank. But you take an ad live as an example, you execute on a particular promotion, whatever we're wanting to call it, doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be dollars in the bank tomorrow. So you've got to be realistic around what that timeline looks like as well.
Yeah. This makes me think of Ty Lopez. You follow Ty Lopez? He's the guy. So back in like I first heard about him like back in like 2014,
Yeah,
and he's this famous like business influencer. And the ad that kind of put him on the map was this YouTube video where he's doing like a selfie video, and he's like here in my garage, and that's how it opens up. And he's got this Lamborghini behind him, and he's in his garage, and it just hooks you in. But then
yeah,
he circles around and he starts talking about books and how the importance of education, and he has this whole library on the wall in his garage with his Lamborghini. And now he's built an empire. And you actually have a lot of respect for Ty. But that people in the comments, would say, "Oh, that's kind of a douchebag thing to do to be like, oh, here in my garage, my Lamborghini behind me." And I was like, man, that's not me. I've never done any type of ad like that. And I've actually tried to where I have like something cool behind me, like my pool in the backyard or some car. And I just feel like a douche. But obviously that stuff converts. It works. So am
yeah.
I wrong for like not trying, experimenting with those different types of things just because it's outside of my own personal comfort zone?
I think ultimately you've always got to be authentic and true to yourself. I think because one thing, and correct me if you disagree, but for longevity, when it comes to marketing, you've got to be able to do it consistently. And particularly as a small business owner, where a lot of that's going to fall on you, a lot of that might be your face in the example that you're using. And if you're not feeling comfortable and you don't feel authentic with what you're doing, I don't know. Then you've got to make the decision, right? Is all that matters dollars in the bank account, or does my authenticity and how I'm being portrayed also matter? Because then I'm going to that weighs, and I've got to listen to that. So I think I would also always default to some form of authenticity for myself. That would happen. It can't only be. It's measured by the dollars. Yeah, to be sustainable. It's
Yeah.
measured by the differentiator here maybe is the success of the campaign is measured by the dollars in the bank account, but it's not only about the dollars in the bank account.
Mm. So so you're going to war with him a little bit on that one. Because if you think, have you watched the movie, or there's a documentary on Netflix it's called Mr. McMahon, and it's about a guy
Yes.
have you heard of it?
WWE. Yeah.
Yeah.
WWF, WWE.
Yeah. So I haven't watched it all yet. My wife is watching it and she was telling me about it, but it's great. There are a lot of great business lessons in there. But from what I do know about it, I mean, he put on this whole act. The whole thing was staged, and he developed every character, and he himself became this character in the WWF. And then it begs, and it's a very polarizing character. But then it begs, like, well, what's real? Is that really him, or is he just like this caricature of a small part of himself that's deep inside?
Yeah, it's a good point. I know he was like an ultimate heel in the character that he portrayed within the organization itself. I think slightly different. That's show business. So that was very much when the lights, camera, action, that's who he portrayed. What I've always found really interesting about so many of the wrestlers is getting them outside of the context of performing and getting them into a one-on-one interview and listening to them. And the guys are like, they're damn intelligent and they're
Yeah.
well articulated, and they've given it consideration, and they've got to build their character and their narrative, and they've got to build those characters over, well, yeah, to this point, over a number of years. And I think they, while that's their character, they're still staying authentic in their, I'm going to say, in their real lives around why they're doing it and what it means to them. So maybe that's the link to make there, and I could be stretching, but
Yeah.
I still think they were able to separate the two, where some people may just lose themselves. And that's an interesting one, because maybe people are playing a character. To your point, maybe the influencer, the business influencer, like lights, camera, action, he's playing a character, this arrogant character that's got a Lamborghini in the background, and that's resonating and it's converting. But ultimately, as long as the people that are leading to the dollars in the bank account, are they getting value off the back of what he is doing, or are they not? Because that's where I would possibly draw the line.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. Maybe we all need to inject a little bit of show business into our marketing, because it works, it sells. But yeah, like you're saying, once they get in, if it's the hook, right? You got to have something entertaining to really grab them and pull them in. So maybe that's where the show business comes in. Then you deliver the value and you show your authenticity.
Correct. It's the same as when we step on stage and you deliver a talk. You've got to do a bit of theatre to that. Your inner Sasha Fierce comes out, Ethan. So,
yeah. Sasha Fierce. No, that's right. I mean, but you got to, you do have to do that. You can't be boring.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how great the information is. If you're boring, then it's going to fall flat. So yeah, you do have to have some entertainment. I mean, like Rich talks about the whole boredom slayer, right? That was his first book. Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Drum roll. Rule number 10. There shall be a tough-minded implementor and take massive action. With advertising and marketing, you have to be thick-skinned towards criticism, tough-minded about money invested, extremely disciplined in thought and action, and adherent to a winning game plan, all fueled by a resolute will to win. He's basically saying you need to be thick-skinned and tough-minded, stick with the plan in order to win.
I mean, that goes without saying in anything that you do. My question that I often ask teams and individuals is, are you interested or are you committed? And interest can be fleeting, commitment is long lasting. So this essentially what, for me, point number 10 is be committed to the process, commit and do it. Be in it for the long haul.
For sure. Yeah. You gotta put yourself out there. You got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I mean, the more successful you are going to face more criticism from others in life. And yeah, you got to take it. You got to decide if that's the goal you want, if that's the prize you want, then go after it no matter what. And you got to be willing to let that criticism bounce off of you. So I totally agree with that. All right. Well, those were the Dan Kennedy's 10 rules for direct response marketing. I'm sure you can find that with a Google search if you want to take a look for yourself and stick it on your wall like I did. But I'm going to try. I can't say that I do all of these, but that's the reason I have it stuck on my wall, to remind me to implement them every day.
I think, and we can wrap it up, but I think that's a great reminder for everybody as well, is just use them to sense check what you're doing. That is key. It's not, don't feel that you have to start now and roll out all of those all at once. It's, what am I doing right now? And if I sense check it against those 10 rules, how do I fare? And what small action can I take to improve one of those areas? Go, do it. It's almost, I think that would be a great way to use those 10 rules. Otherwise, it's overwhelming.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, Justin. Catch you next time.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. Cheers.
That's a wrap for today's episode of King Moves. Remember, in chess, like in business, one right move can change everything. Take today's action step, make your move, and build momentum.
If you found value in today's episode, share it with someone who's ready for their next breakthrough, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss our weekly conversations. Until next time.